started working with people from other neighborhoods and so forth and so on. And that's how we got where we are now.
So let the people know, I'm an old Camdonian too. And what high school did you graduate from?
Camden High, class of '88.
Okay, y'all know me, right? I got to get this out the way because I graduated from Woodrow Wilson, the only real high school that's in Camden. That's why we're the only one left standing. But that's a bad joke right there, right? But they always knew that the real people, no matter what happens, come from Wilson. But I just wanted to get that out the way because I see you got that big shirt to high on there. For those of you who are outside of the city of Camden, I just want to let you know, Camden and Wilson, we listen, we are rivals, okay? But guess what? But we stick together, okay?
That's right.
But you take that shirt off. But anyway, I'll let you stay. But look, tell the people a little bit about Camden, because from where it was to where it is now. Because I know when I grew up downtown on. I always tell people I was at 4th and Mickle. My aunt used to be the curator of Walt Whitman House. I used to hang out in Walt Whitman House all the time, and now they tore my house down as a prison, as county jail there. And then I live in third in Washington. So I'm from downtown. But
listen. I used to be on 3rd in Washington back in '75, '76. My brother's grandma lived on 3rd in Washington. You might know some of the Tompkins family.
Oh yeah, probably.
My brother's grandma lived right on 3rd in Washington. We used to be down there like '74, '75, '76.
Oh, okay. That was after I had left like 71. Because,
okay. I was born 70.
Yeah, I'm a little older than you. I just look younger, right? But tell the people a little bit about the city of Camden because you hear a lot of things about Camden, and just share just a little bit about Camden, and then go from there and let's start talking about the topic and how
I'm gonna give you a abridged version. I'm gonna give you a abridged version, but it's gonna have clarity. And I'm glad that we're on a national platform but one thing that everybody already knows no other reason, from the comedians. You see how we always can relate to the comedians' jokes? Because the same thing happens everywhere. Right?
Now you're breaking up a little bit. Can we get a little clearer? Just a little. Now you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, the same thing happens everywhere, right? The blueprint is put forth and we all go through the same trials and tribulations when you're impoverished. So Camden, back when you left, which you left during white flight, you left around that time after the riot. That was about 71, right? So from then to 79, where Angelo Arricchetti was the mayor, from then to then, it was a transition phase in Camden. Then after Arricchetti, we started having black mayors throughout the 80s up to recent. So we went through white flight, which is when all the Caucasians in the inner city moved out to the suburbs. And we pretty much inherited the city. And I usually call that a black Mecca because at that point you start getting to utilize the resources and you start getting the public works jobs and we basically start moving up the social ladder. And then now we're going through what I call a white influx, which is the Renaissance period. We're going through the Renaissance era right now, whereas the suburban people are coming back to the city, and the city's being gentrified. So people are being moved out, things are being knocked down, property is being taken, sold off, so forth, so on. So I'm sure everybody from anywhere, whether you're in Detroit, whether you're in Atlanta, whether you're in wherever, you can relate to that because the same blueprint is happening all over the country.
Just real quick, look, it's a bunch of y'all on the page right now. Can y'all do me a favor? Just hit that share button. Just hit that share button because this is going to be right now you can see this is a word that needs to go nationwide. Just hit that share button for me. Yeah, because, so based on what you were saying, the white flight, and I remember my cousin Gerald Walker, Poppy Sharp, and all those guys, you knew them. He was able to take care of some things. We knew the police officers, things happened. So what really, if we don't, what is the cause and why is it so hard to change in Camden?
Okay, well, the cause, honestly, is not just Camden, but Camden's included. The cause is J. Edgar Hoover said the biggest threat to America, the biggest threat to the United States was the unification and empowerment of the blacks in the United States, right? And this came after Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and the Black Panther Party was assassinated. This came after that. So overall, in the country, there's been a game plan to break up unification amongst the black community, right? He also said that the stronghold for the black community's unification is the black family. So they are attacking constantly, consistently, the unification and the empowerment of the black family, right? To some people that might sound far-fetched. If you're doing well, if you're wealthy, you know, the struggle is not really on your mind, then that might sound far-fetched. If you're doing well already and you may have, lost touch with the struggle and you say, well, if I made it, you can make it too, which is true. But what I'm saying is this is not a boogeyman. This is not a mythical Illuminati. This is a game plan to subjugate the black community, and we assist that subjugation because we allow ourselves to be divided and conquered. Right? We hate on ourselves. We target ourselves. We aim at ourselves. We tear each other down. So they put it in motion, and we're doing it for them. Is where we're at now.
So my question is, I always believe in that. We always need. When I was growing up, we had a black community. I don't know so much now. Are we're more neighborhoods than communities because we don't own the economics. We don't own anything in our communities. We don't own the stores. What would you say some of the strategies that we need to get into to bring back or take back our communities?
Well, the number one strategy is within self. Right? So everybody, the biggest secret that we all know is what our credit worthiness is, right? So everybody needs to face and address their credit worthiness individually. I always say when you get a room full of people that want to make change, one of the first things you should do in that meeting is have everybody bring their credit report. Because then there's no more secrets. There's no more divided. There's nowhere for somebody to infiltrate. Everybody at that point knows where everyone stands. And if we can commit to helping each other get to where we need to be, then we can move on to the solution, which we all titled as Buy Back the Block, right? So we need to start purchasing real estate. We need to start making investments. We need to go back to being store owners. We need to become stakeholders in the community. We need to become stakeholders in the city, in the county, in the state, in the country. We got to get on the playing board as a whole, right? Now, of course, that don't mean everybody, but we have to increase the number of people that are in the game. That the rest of us are basically just sitting on the sideline playing the game. We're just pawns. We need to get in the game.
So I know we have a lot of grassroots organizations in Camden. We also have there's two fractions in Camden, and it's probably everywhere else. Tell me a little bit about that and what's really dictating the economics in the city right now.
Well, we have what my brother Twan says. You had him on the other night. We have the front yard and the backyard, right? The front yard is everybody that's working with the powers to be. And in our particular situation, the powers to be is the Democratic Party, right? The Democratic Party is being
wait. You mean the Democratic Party that we black folks that we say is the only party that's going to help us? Hold on, wait a minute. No, that can't be true. No. That can't be true. You mean the Democratic Party that my mom, the Democratic Party that we died to vote for? That can't be true. But you know what? I'm going to let you keep talking, but just go ahead.
Yes, the powers to be is the Democratic Party, the same Democratic Party that implemented the Jim Crow laws, the same Democratic Party that implemented and took over the Union, the same Democratic Party that started the KKK, the same Democratic Party that wanted to end slavery so that they can enslave everybody, right? So that's the Democratic Party. In our particular area, the Democratic Party is running the show, right? And then we have one person who's not even a politician by title that's running the Democratic Party. So in our city, it's get down or lay down. If you're not down with the movement of the party that calls the shots, the individuals that call the shots, then you don't get to make any major moves. You can maneuver, you can move around, you can buy a house here, you can buy a house there, you can flip it, you can get on that level, but you can't make any major shots. You can't go out and buy a corporate office building. You can't do that. You can't buy a real estate in a certain part of the city that they have a game plan for. You can't do that. It falls down to not only what you know and what you have, but who you know, because if you're not going to push the agenda that's being pushed, then you're not going to get in the way of the agenda. And that's what we're facing right now.
So how do we overcome that?
Well, it's easy. It's hard. It's easy because it's simple. So many people have done it before. It's hard because we're our worst enemy. Like, you know, our greatest oppressor is us. So it's easy because following the blueprint of every immigrant that ever came here, whether you're Irish, Italian, Polish, Jewish, every immigrant that ever came here, Indian, you have to build a government inside the government. So in other words, you have to move, you have to build a structure within your own community so that you move as one united voice. Once you can do that, you automatically force yourself to the table. Even if you don't have a dime, you automatically go to the table because you control votes. So, you know.
I want our people, if you have some questions, please type in some questions. You have some questions for John. He'll definitely here to answer it. Let's get your topic is history repeats itself. Well, what does that mean?
That means I like to study history, right? Because I like to know the cause, and I'm big on cliches. I believe cliches have been around so long because history repeats itself. So the cliches keep being valid over and over again because the same scenarios keep happening over and over again, right? So one of the things is time. If you don't know where you've been or where you're at, you don't know what's coming, right? So I believe that all that a prophet is someone who's been enlightened to where they're at on the timeline. Because then they have a cheat sheet. They have history to show them what's about to happen, right? But if you never know where you're at on the timeline, you're only guessing because you can't look back and say, okay, that's what just happened. This is where I'm at. So this is what's coming in accordance to the circle of time that's been taking place all this time, right? And the reason why I say that too is because if you look back through history, if you look at when the Moors ruled Europe for 700 years, from 711 AD to 1491-92 AD, right? When you look at that,
real quick, because you might have some people out there that don't know what Moors are. Now, break that down real quick. Let's take a minute because you went there. All right, you opened the door now. All right, you opened the door. Right. Come on now. All right.
Okay. So the Moors are basically black people, right? And it's a multiculture of black people. So Arabians, there's some Arabians that are some Arabs that are Moors. There's some sub-Saharans that are Moors. It's black people, right? Like Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was Moors. And really, real quick, Morocco owned the land that the United States, the corporation, is on. So Morocco made it possible for the United States to become a corporation, to become a business. Morocco is the ones that birthed the United States, right? Everything in the world works on a treaty. According to maritime law for import and export, everything in the world works on a treaty, right? So if you don't have a treaty, you don't have any power. So look at us, look at the Native Americans, right? They're on reservations. We heard about the horror story they had, and now they're on reservations, right? With certain perks or whatever, they still got the short end of the stick, but they boom. But they have a treaty, right? So the reason why the construct is put in place to keep us nationless is so that we never have a treaty to operate off of, right? So we're lost because we're not moving in global form with the rest of the world. This is why we stated this for. We need a treaty, but we can't have a treaty unless we're unified. We can't become unified unless we have something to identify to. We can't identify to anything until we know where we was so that we can know where we're at, and then we can dictate where we're going. This is why history repeats itself, right? So going back to the Moors are the northwestern Africans, right? The only thing separates them from Spain and from Portugal is the Strait of Gibraltar, which leads into the Mediterranean Sea. The Moors went over the Strait of Gibraltar and they took over, right? Spain and Lower Europe and Portugal, they call this era for 700 years their Dark Ages, which is ironic because black people was ruling them for that time period. So that's their Dark Ages. When the Dark Ages was up is when Christopher Columbus got commissioned to sell out, right? So that in school, which we'll get on that later, learn, unlearn, and relearn. In school, we was taught that he was looking for a trip to the West Indies, and he was going to get spices and all this stuff, right? But they never taught you about the Moors in school. They never taught you about what happened just before 1492, right? So it's ironic that when they finally got back control, now all of a sudden he's selling out because he's going to go find what the Moors been doing for the last 700 years while they was ruling them. He convinced the queen and them that I can continue that. I have a Moorish navigator, and I can continue all the perks that we went through while we was under them, right? So that's when they came out and started selling about and hitting Central America and South America and so forth and so on, right? So that was their Dark Ages. When they got back control, that was named as their Renaissance era, right? Now, bring it full circle. In Camden, we had white flight, then we had black control, and now we have gentrification, which is white influx. And this is the Renaissance era, right? The blueprint is exactly the same. The Greeks went through the same thing with their black era and their Renaissance era. They went through the same thing. It happens over and over and over again. If you learn history and you learn the markers and you recognize them, then you know what to do, right? You know how to defeat it. But since most of us, like Malcolm X said, the person that allows their children to be educated by the enemy is a fool. Since most of us was educated by the enemy, we have no idea because the enemy didn't teach us the whole picture. They taught us the picture from their view so that we always mentally feel defeated and subjugated, right? I'm gonna let you get back in because I just
no, because you listen. So I'm gonna have to get you back on because you said a few things right that people don't know, and I don't want to get too deep on this thing because you gotta know we all are corporations. Every last one of us is already owned on the stock exchange. If I was to die right now, somebody would get about $6 million off of my debt. But we don't want to go down that road. But give us a little more insight. What would you say the strategies that we need to have? One, we know everybody ain't going to come. Some going to be left behind, and we got to deal with that reality.
Harry Tubman.
What is some of the strategies that you want to put in place? Say, for instance, that can be duplicated in other cities.
I'm gonna tell you because this strategy came to me the other day. I don't know. It's feasible. I don't know how obtainable it is and what time frame, but it all boils down to trust, right? Let's say Apostle Wilkerson is worth $500 million, right? And he comes back to Camden, and he sees what's going on, and he want to make a change. right? The quickest way through trust for us to boost our economy, as opposed to coming to you for handouts, is for us to pledge our allegiance to purchase everything you produce. So now, with your 500 million, you can take a smidgen of that and open up corner stores all throughout the city, and we only going to shop at your corner store, right? You can open up cleaner services. You can open up whatever you want. You're going to hire it within the community only, and we're going to pledge our dollar to you within the community only, right? So we put our trust in a person that can afford to take the chance, and we put our dollars behind that, because our dollars is powerful. Throughout the world, our dollars is powerful. And everybody knows that. So everybody benefits from us being disenfranchised, because we get up, we go to work, we get money, or we sit at home, we collect welfare, we get money. Whatever the case may be, we get money and we spend it, right? But we spend it outside of our community. So it's not forming no foundation. It's not forming no economical base. So in all reality, with trust, we all come together and we find out who's in a position to be able to take a chance on the community. And then we pledge our buying power to that person, and it's going to come back tenfold in jobs and economic boosts and so forth and so on, and other people grow up the ladder. That's the best solution. But like I said, I don't know how feasible it is in what period of time, because it takes trust. And mental issues is the main things that's holding us back. But that's the best solution, because we don't need nothing from nobody else. We don't need permission or anything. We don't need anything from anybody else.
And here's what's so powerful about what you said, right? 1.6 trillion dollars that we generate for buying power. Now here's something that nobody's not talking about, right? And one of the things, even with my incubation program is for newly formed businesses. Teach them the structure, strategy, systems, and sales. A lot of our black businesses, watch this. There's 2.4 million black businesses in America, 2.6, right? About 60,000 black businesses start every year. After the first 18 months, 60% have already failed. After 3 to 5 years, 38% has failed, which only leaves us with 2%. Now, watch this. 2.6 million black businesses, but 1.9 million don't have employees. Or let's put it like this: 44%, only 4% of all black businesses has employees. So that's actually generating 70% of the black wealth in the United States off of 4% of businesses that scale up. Now watch this, John. This is what's so powerful. Until we understand on the economic side, on the business side, to be able to scale up to spur economic growth, we're missing $8 trillion if black businesses will start scaling up and hiring people, and it would generate 1 million jobs in the community. And along with what you're saying, you're looking at almost $10 trillion that we can generate if we map this out right. And guess what? What you're saying works, because every other ethnicity does it but us.
Everyone does it but us.
But us.
Everyone does it but us. Right. And that's all we got to do. And we don't need permission from nobody to do it.
Exactly.
And we could do it in the state that we're in right now. We don't have to do something more. We don't have to go out and accomplish something more. We could do it in the state we are in the situation we're in right now. As we are today, we can do that. And all it takes is for us to pledge to love ourselves, to believe in ourselves.
So let me ask you a question. So it's 75,000 people in Camden, New Jersey, right? 75,000. It's amazing because statistics says only 26,000 have jobs, right? The poverty rate is like 37%, right? The average cost of a house is only 80,000, right? So how do we get? And the mayor's race, 5 to 7,000 votes, you won the mayor's office. So now, based on what I just said, how do we? I mean, how much of the damage that we're doing to ourselves? And how can we fix that damage where we can't even get 7,000 votes out? We can't get 10,000 votes out of 75,000 people.
Well, I'm going to tell you why. and it's sad. It's sad, but it's fixable, right? The reason why we can't get 7,000 unified votes is because, one, the Democratic Party picks us apart by putting us against us. That's the automatic vote splitter right there. The other is that a lot of individuals that are eligible to vote, right, don't vote because they're uneducated about voting. So in other words, they're registered to vote because everybody ran out to vote for Obama because it was trendy. It was history. They wanted to be part of history. But they were, even at that point, they were uneducated about voting. So when you're asking them to look into the facts of what's taking place now, although on a local level, this is what your one vote equals one vote, and this is what affects you the most, they pull back because it's not trending to them, right? So in Camden, you had an exodus of the well-to-do, middle class, so forth, so on, of black and brown people, right? They got their money and they rolled. Which you can't really blame them because it was a war going on of Camden being ran down in order to put it in a position to where it could be bought out cheap. So if you got your own kids and so forth and so on, I can't blame anybody that moved out, moved to Sicklerville, moved to Echo, wherever, Pensauk and Cherry Hill, to give their children a better life. That's your job as a parent to do. Now, you could have came back and advocated in the city while your children were out safe and so forth, but everybody's not built for that, and, you know, it is what it is. So what you're left with is, let's go to the 80s for a second. The war on drugs, right? When the crack epidemic hit the streets, 80s, early 90s, the whole nine, right? Back when I was selling drugs, I got this one memory in my mind of going to a lady's house in the projects, going to her back door, right, to sell a drug. And then in the projects, when you open the back door, the pantry is right there, and a opening, like a 4-foot, 5-foot opening to the kitchen is right there. And when you look through the kitchen, it's a doorway, a regular doorway that leads into the living room. So she's buying drugs, and her pantry, her children are standing at the doorway. They're about 3-4 years old, right? Now, that's done. You go back out on the block, and, you know, they're coming out, they're selling the Christmas toys, they selling their kids Christmas clothes, school clothes, whatever the case may be, right? So as I got as my conscience kicked in, I reflect back on that and I say, if that was 90, 91, 92, right? Those kids are almost 30. Those kids have kids, and some of those kids have grandkids, right? So what did they learn during that period when their mom, who might have been a single mother or had different boyfriends, or maybe even their dad was in jail, what did they learn during that period that conforms with a regular household and structure and looking forward to the future and investing in your kids? And where did they learn that during that time period, right? And then now they get grown, and then they start having sex and having kids and so forth and so on. We're losing what we remember. So that's why when we look at them, we like they don't got common sense. Well, nobody taught them common sense. We didn't just have common sense. We was taught common sense by every adult we came in contact with. Your parents, your grandparents, your neighbors, your uncles, your aunts, everybody. They didn't have that. So now they're raising kids that are having kids, and this is where the whole structure of the family breaking down took place, right? So this is what you have now. Not every person in Camden, because it's a bunch of hardworking people, including some of those kids. They're hardworking people. They love their children. They do the best they can. They're trying to raise them, but it's a lot of factors that's missing that we had that they don't have. So this is why you have to be patient, and this is why you have to invest in them and be forgiving to a degree and teach them the things that we assume they should know. You have to teach them, and you have to give them, afford them opportunity. You have to create opportunity. Like, you have to build the base that you're going to stand on to even build the foundation, right? Now, if we had tons of resources, it'd be easier. because just like starting a block, everybody looks at you like you're crazy when you're out there breaking night and the whole nine, and they don't really see the customers. Then when the block is flowing and the traffic is pouring through and the whole nine, now every young boy want to come hustle for you because they can see it come to fruition. And you have to apply that to everyday life. You have to let them see it come to fruition and show them how they relate to it and how you can bring them forward to touch it. So we've been having a difficult time of doing that leading up to this point, to enough to get enough people out to say, you know what, if we go vote, we'll have recreations again. If we go vote, we'll have job opportunities. We'll have internships. We'll have training again. We'll have union jobs again if we go vote. That connection has to be made, and that's what we all work on, no matter what angle we coming from, whether it's you work with the kids, whether you work with the adults, whether you work with reentry, whatever you're working on, all that is to put back into place what was missing, and most of the time from our generation and above, helping to tear down the streets.
So it was amazing because I used to be out there hustling everything. It's a new type of generation, and I remember this movie I saw. I forget the name of it. With Jim Brown and all of them was on it, and they actually started this gang, and they got older, and this gang took over the city and all that, and he was getting ready to beat the brother up because he killed his son, and he made a statement. The young brother said, "You created me, because you're the one that started." So we created a lot of stuff, and I remember that. So we created a lot of stuff with our young men that's out there on the blocks and stuff like that. How do we connect with those young brothers? How can we I'm trying to figure out the right word because it's so hard nowadays because they have to eat. So how can we connect and try to pull them off without having some resources to make sure that they can, as we say, eat?
Well, you got to have resources, but it's only two ways, right? I had somebody that we all know ask me a question one day at Centerville Unity Day, right? The kids that got into a little scuffle or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So go over there and break it up. And so the person asked me, and this is somebody that advocates in the city on a regular basis. They said, what do you say to them? Like, how do you get to them? So what I told the person is, they see your light or the lack thereof. So you got to be real. You know, you can't come out here and say what you think they want to hear. You can't even say the best thing for them if your light don't shine, right? Just like any teacher. You got all these teachers that went through the same thing at the same degrees, the whole nine. But some teachers stuck out to you because their light was bright, right? In our primitive nature, we see each other's aura, right? In our subconscious, we prejudge each other according to that. So if you want people to listen to you, you want people to follow you, you have to be who you say you are. And if you're not that, you have to become that. Because then they follow your light. Then they see the truth. It's like a baby. A person could walk in a room and a baby could look at them and bust out crying. That person ain't never did nothing to that baby. But that baby sees the aura, right? They don't like the aura that it sees. And then a baby can see somebody else walk in the room and bust out laughing. A baby can look into the corner of the room and bust out laughing with nobody there. It sees the aura. This is the only way you can get to them is by improving who you are daily. And that should be everybody's goal, period. Because that's when they'll follow.
One thing I try, I'm 61, right? And one thing I try to tell all my old heads, first of all, I got wisdom and everything. I'm from the streets and everything. I'm a pastor and all that stuff now, apostle. But what I'm not afraid of our young people. Second of all, the reason I'm really not afraid, and I want to say this to guys my age that grew up in my era, I'm 61. Men, that's 61 and up, 60 and over. We need to dress like our age. You see, if I'm walking down the street and I'm dressed like a 17, 18-year-older, guess how they gonna treat me? Like a 17, right. 18-year-older. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. So one of the things as black men in our community, those that's come from there. You said they have to see a light. They have to see a difference. They have to see something different about you. You know, it ain't about, you know, all this other stuff. They need some real stuff. They need to know you authentic. They need to know you vulnerable. They need to really know, like, my thing is, because, you know, I deal with homelessness. I house homeless people. I house guys coming out of prison. I house mental clients, and I deal, you know, go to prison, all that stuff. But the one thing that we need to be able to do with these young people, especially of us that's been there, I know how you feel. So you can tell me a whole lot of stuff, but I know how you feel. You know, I know how it feels to be, you know, be homeless. I know how it feels to eat out of the trash can. I know how it feels to have a pistol stuck in you. I know all those things. So when I look at the older generation, right? What would you tell older guys my age? What suggestion would you give us to how to deal with the younger generation? Because, you know, it's old, you know, guys like we sit in our ways. We think we know everything.
I would say, stay where you are. And what I mean, I don't mean down south.
Don't even come outside. Just stay in the house. Matter of fact, go take the Geritol, turn on Love and Hip Hop, and just stay home. Don't even come out.
No. By stay where you are, meaning, you know, in boxing, if me and you boxing, right? You know your height, you know my height. Don't come down to my height. Box tall. You know what I mean? Work off the jab, stay outside because your arms is longer than mine, and box tall. So if you're an old head, right, and you want to get to the young boys, stay where you are. Stay within yourself. Don't try to relate to them on their level because it's going to come off as false, right? Stay an old head because then they'll respect you the way they would a grandpa or a dad, right? So stay where you are and then work with them from there. And too many people try to relate to them and they see it as false from the gate. You know what I mean? They don't want you to relate to them because they know where they at. They mastered where they're at, whether they making it, not making it, whether they live it, whether they die tomorrow. They mastered where they're at. You can't tell them about where they're at, right? But you could tell them where they can go. You could tell them what they can become. You could tell them how you got to where you are, and they could have a blueprint to follow. So stay where you are, and the ones that want to be there will follow it.
So look, we got about 5 minutes left, right? We got about 5 minutes left.
That
so
look,
what you man, you have plethora of people all on the line. See, I can tell when people getting stuff because you're doing real good because they ain't got no questions. But listen, give us some closing remarks, man. Leave us with something that's going to edify. Leave us, I'll be back in Camden shortly, right? And it's amazing that I've been away from Camden a long time, but let me tell you how much I love my city. I've been following Wilson since I graduated in '77. I can tell you their records. I can tell you, and I follow information. I follow what's going on in the city. I follow all those things. You know, what would you tell? And you're seeing the cities changing. You're seeing the cities getting ready to blow up. And when I talk to a lot of people that's left, I said, look, we need to move back to Camden. We need to move back to Camden. I ain't moving back to Camden. Hey, what's the appeal? You know, because my wife, I always tell my wife, I'm retiring in Camden. Because I was sitting on my porch down here in Atlanta, and I'm looking around this neighborhood, right? Don't know nobody. Don't know the neighbors. Ain't going to no high school football game because I don't know nobody. If I go to the game, I don't know nobody anyway. So I'm living my life like it's non-existent anyway. So what would you encourage us or say to us to make us want to come back, or I don't say make us want to come back, but would entice us and say, are we needed? Put it like that.
Okay. My only problem with Camden Rising, right? Because I love it. I love what they're doing. I love what Mayor Red and all them put together and Norcross and all. I love that, right? To be completely honest. I love the new buildings going up. I love the universities coming in, the institutions, the whole nine. My only problem has always been, what about the people? Like, I really don't think it's fair that y'all cross the people like that. So that's my only gripe, right? I would say Camden is going to rise, right? So on an emotional level, even if you're an activist, an advocate, or whatever the case may be, don't be so dumb that you don't get in on the ground level while it's rising, right? Don't let your emotions keep you on the outside until you're stuck outside, right? Because you've seen it happen in Baltimore. You've seen it happen in North Philly. I mean, Richard Allen Mob, like, that's Northern Liberties now. You've seen it happen. You see what the end results are. So get in while the getting's good. You can keep fighting a good fight for the people to even the odds, but get in while the getting's good, because Camden is going to rise. It's already rising. It's already changing. The face of Camden is already changing. And the reason why this election November 5th is so important is because tons of money is about to come through to reach out into even more neighborhoods for renovation, right? And that's why they're running the candidate for it, because they want to be in full control of that money. And that's why we're running the candidate for it, because we want to implement the people into some of those benefits, right? So anybody that's thinking about it, anybody that lives out there, anybody that went out there during that bubble and bought a home and you know, you got it at what was a ridiculous cost as far as interest rate and so forth, and then you made it through the record number of foreclosures and all that. Stop living out there check to check just to have a big ass house. Come back to the city, because they coming. Come back to the city, do your due diligence, find out what neighborhoods are being redeveloped, get a property in that neighborhood, or two or three, or whatever the case may be. Develop those properties, put all the amenities into it, because you're paying nothing for the property. Make it as comfortable as possible, and ride the wave. Because we need our affluent Black and brown people to come back to the city too, right? We need them to come back, so that when Camden rises, now our communities are filled with professionals and retirees and people that are stakeholders that's taking pride in the neighborhood, and we can have that good feeling all over again. And guess what? Everybody not gonna make it, right? Everybody didn't make it on the arc. Everybody not gonna make it.
So,
and we tell them, but if they won't even get up to vote or do anything, then I mean, you got to, you know the inevitable, whether they know it or not. So I'm not going to jump down there and drown or go into the well like Jonah, because y'all won't stand up and do what I'm asking y'all to do, so that you can have a say so. You know, that's what it is.
So look, we're going.
Now, the other thing I want to tell.
No, go ahead, keep going. You good? I want
to tell everybody this. The key reason that we've been oppressed for so long, right, is because we forgot who we were. And that's the honest truth. Can nobody argue it or none of that, right? We forgot who we were. When we in school, we learn about the Roman Empire, we learn about all that nonsense, right? All that stuff had a beginning and an end. They never teach you who ruled for 10,000s of years, right? 100,000s of years, no matter what level it was. No matter what level civilization was at or any of that, they never told you who was in charge all that time, right? We forgot who we are. If we are the creators of civilization, right? If God created us, and in the image of himself, he allowed us to be creators, right? And how do you know we're creators? Because everything in your sight right now, no matter what you look at, was thought about and manifested, right? Somebody created every single thing that you touch every day or see every single day. So since we've been on this earth, we've been doing nothing but creating, like in the image of himself, right? The Almighty I Am. Because The universe is conscious, the universe is God, and God manifested himself into man and created. And in his image, we were manifested and created, and we still create. So as you think is as you do. This is why it's so important to control your thoughts, right? This is why they took control of all the media, so that they can get into your children's ears. They got their earphones in. They shooting ideologies and images negative in their minds on a regular basis, right? They took away through the law your ability to discipline and control your children and keep them in order so that they can run them up, right? They took the Bible from in front of the courthouses so that they could pass laws that will put us in a Sodom and Gomorrah state, right? You see them doing this, right? And we ain't got to say who them are. You see it. You see it getting done. But what's true throughout all that is through slavery, through war, through everything, we sprout up like the everlasting weed, right? We like that rose in the concrete. During slavery, during our worst conditions, our worst living conditions, we still constantly invented and built and created and invented because we have that God energy, right? When you teach your children about that God energy that's in them, their self-esteem level will be so high that all of that other nonsense will be beneath them. But a lot of us have to teach ourselves because we forgot who we are. So I say that to say, a lot of people say Kanye's crazy, right? Kanye's crazy. Kanye said we were slaves by choice, and everybody went crazy. We weren't slaves by choice. If we weren't slaves by choice, right? We didn't choose to be slaves. But at any time, it could have been give me liberty or give me death, right? The Gullahs did it. The Gullah War off the coast of South Carolina and Georgia, the Gullahs did it. The Seminoles, who weren't an Indian tribe, it was a collaboration of warriors. Whether they runaway slaves or runaway natives, whatever it was, they did it for all that time. Give me liberty or give me death. Let's stop being slaves, man. Let's die for something so that we can live for something, or at least leave our kids something to live for.
That's what I'm talking about. And I do have one thing. I got to give a shout out right now to Mr. Arthur Ashe. Mr. Arthur Ashe, right, was our Black history teacher at Woodrow Wilson that allowed us to be conscious. So that's another plus that we had going to Wilson. We actually had a conscious teacher that taught us consciousness. So when I got to college, I went into the Afro-Am because of what I've learned in Wilson. But anyway, I just figured I'd throw that out there, right? But man, I appreciate you. Matter of fact, I see, look, hey, Denny, I can see Denny Brown on him. You be in there every night. I'm getting ready to call you, Denny, because I need you. I want to get Vic on the show, okay? Because I know Vic on the show, we're going to get about 5,000 people that want to ask questions. But anyway, look, Brother John, I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate you. Listen, look, we're going to get you back on here because we're going to take this a little deeper than that, right? Because you started hitting the Moors and you – go ahead.
Let's go deep. Matter of fact, you know what? I put up a post the other day, a video, to let people know that it wasn't I Have a Dream that got Martin Luther King killed. It was when he said, you know, what the hell with all that boycotting and all that? Let's boost our economy.
Yeah. Look, because we go look. You picked that because soon as him and Malcolm had that conversation, Martin said, "I'll take the South, you take the North, and we gonna make this thing happen." That's when look. He said we run into that burning building. People that gotta remember, boy, you got me going again. They gotta look at Malcolm and Martin's last speeches.
The last speeches.
You see, a lot of people don't know.
They treated them like Saddam and Gaddafi.
Yeah, and see,
when they start talking about the Union, the African Union.
Yep, a lot of people don't remember the Ballad and the Bullet was after he went to Mecca, not after he departed. But look, we go. Listen, I gotta get you on once a month. We gonna listen. So I already know we gonna make this happen. Man, look, they still ain't nobody go nowhere. John is my bro. I know John, your bro, Denny. I need you to
get right. 88, baby. 88, baby.
But anyway, I give you a call. So look, Hey, everybody, welcome to Ray's Corner Live. Ray's Corner Live coming to you live all the way from here. Where it's here, right here. I'm telling you, listen, we have Big John on the show. I feel honored. I feel privileged. And listen, like we always say here at Ray's Corner Live, God loves you and I love you. And guess what? Ain't nothing you can do about it. Peace out. Holla. Oh, hold on. Wait a second. Something ain't right here. Something ain't right here. Something is not right here. I got to find out what's